Hello, everybody. Welcome to the College to Calling Summit. My name is Miko Lau, and I'm the host of this summit. And the purpose of this show is to really inspire, educate, and empower recent college graduates out there on how you can rediscover yourself, find your calling, and to build a happy, successful life centered around what you love doing. And today we have a very special guest here with us. His name is James Kademan. And James is a very successful entrepreneur. He's an author and also a podcaster and a business coach who has started his entrepreneurial journey since 2006. And he has started, grown, and sold multiple businesses. And now he mentors entrepreneurs on how to build a successful business as well. And I know, James, you're a very expert on the psychology of business, and you use your expertise not only to help people get success in businesses, you also help people get massive results in life in general. And I really want to say thank you so much for your time today to really share about your journey and your expertise and really help impact this audience, young leaders who are really looking to build something successful in their life. So super happy to have you on here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is exciting.
Awesome. So let's jump straight into this interview.
Sure.
I would love for you to take us back in time and to talk to us a little bit about who James was back in his early 20s.
Oh, early 20s, way back.
Yeah.
I was a punk. I was going to college, and I didn't know what I wanted to do or where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
So I even went to school. I went to college in my hometown because I wasn't smart enough to know that I should leave. I looked at it from a purely financial point of view, which there's benefit to that because I got to stay at home for a couple of years. Which that wasn't the benefit, but when you don't have to pay rent, that's cool. And then I grew up in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. So I just went to UW Eau Claire, Blue Gold. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I ended up going for graphic design because I was decent at that. And I went for 4 years and I walked away. I never graduated.
You went for 4 years, but you didn't finish.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, what happened? Why did you decide to walk away after 4 years?
There's two answers to that question. One is I met a girl, and she was smart enough to graduate in 4 years. So she got a job in Madison, Wisconsin, where we live now. So I just joined her down there. And then the other answer is they switched around the program a little bit. So in order for me to graduate with a graphic design degree, I'd have to go to school for another year and a half. Because there's 3 classes I had to take, and they only offered them every other semester.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know, another year and a half.
So graphic design was not your calling.
No, I thought it was, but no. I got a job as a graphic designer, and I was sitting at a desk, and you're designing, right? When you first get a job as a graphic designer, you get the bottom rung stuff, so like all the pro bono stuff. So you're doing brochures for churches and fundraisers and all this stuff, and those are the worst because you have a committee. So there's going to be some like church committee that would have to decide on which design you're going to go with. So you give them 6 designs, and 3 of them were just fluff that you put together so that you had 6. A couple of them were really cool, and one was like, and they would pick one of the fluff ones. I can't use this as a portfolio builder, so I was sitting in this just a boring office, right? It was just beige, and you're in this uncomfortable chair, and they're like, go be creative. It just wasn't my thing.
So what happened when you decided to walk away from college? Was it something really, did you feel like a failure? Did you feel disappointed, or you had
Not
like
even
clarity?
Not even a little. No, the only person that my dad would ask me almost every time I would see him, like, hey, you going to go back to school? He asked me that for probably 15 years after that. And eventually, once I got successful in my own business, I'm like, I don't know. Bill Gates didn't finish. Steve Jobs didn't finish. I'm in good company.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah. So you knew what you wanted to do then, like when you walked away?
No, I was working full time as a mechanic while I was going to college. So that helped pay for college. I paid my own way.
Mm-hmm.
So then I got a different job as a mechanic in Madison, and I decided I don't want to be a mechanic. Um, it's fun, but I was just hanging around with, I don't know, there's a certain crowd that are mechanics, the smokers and stuff like that. It just wasn't my jam.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, we're in Wisconsin, and there's a lot of snow in Wisconsin in the wintertime. So I remember I was underneath this car fixing brakes or exhaust or whatever it was. And I walked underneath the car, was lifted up high, right on the hoist.
Yeah.
And I had this huge ball of slush that was on the mud flap go right down my back. And I thought, I can be done here. I don't need to do this anymore. So I just put in my 2 weeks and they're, whatever. It turns
Mm-hmm.
out that business, 2 weeks after I quit, no, I think it was 2 months after I quit, it was for Penske, which was the Kmart fix-it shops. They closed nationwide with no warning. So it was good timing, I guess, on my part.
So,
Yeah.
so it sounded like you were really just following what your intuition was telling you along the way. But how did you get into building businesses? Like, where did the
Yeah.
inspiration come from?
So I realized probably in my mid to late 20s that I had been taking the path of least resistance, right? And I noticed this because I have a friend that still takes the path of least resistance, right? So he ended up, he was working at a print shop. I was working with him for a few years in high school and college. He ended up buying that print shop. It was a 3-person print shop. So he essentially bought his job. And he ended up meeting a girl that was one of our friends' ex-girlfriend. He bought a house that was his aunt's house or something like that. Like everything, if it wasn't within arm's reach, he wasn't working for it. And I'm like, that's crazy, right? I'm thinking, just watching what he's doing, like, would I want that life? And then I was thinking about my own, and I was like, wait a second. I'm doing all the same stuff. I'm not exploring anything. I'm not doing anything more diverse than what I got going on. So I got to change that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just this click, like a moment where you're like, okay, we got to change stuff. What are we going to change? And you just tackle it. You just hit it as hard as you can.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up getting a job as a printer repair technician because I thought, hey, I'm really good at mechanical stuff, right? And I'm good at graphic design. So this was back in, when was this? This was probably early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
Early 2000s color printers were just starting to take off. So I became this super awesome printer repair technician, which is like a good typewriter technician now. There's not a whole lot of value in that. But I would have technicians from all over the area calling me up when they would have a problem and say, hey, James, how do we fix this, right? And just take care of it. And eventually I learned, like, wait a second, this is a 2-rung ladder, right? Like you get the job and then you get really good at the job and then there's nowhere to go. So unless you become like a manager or something like that, but most of those are small businesses. They really didn't have anything. So then I decided, okay, well, I got to go after my manager's job. And I did not hide that at all. It was not like some stealthy political thing. It was a 20-person company, so it wasn't very big. So I was just like, not even hiding that I was going after his job, which is a great way to get fired. So I got I got fired from that job. So I had a couple of just odd jobs to fill time after that. Drove a concrete truck. I worked at another printer repair place, installed fire alarms. And then eventually I decided, you know what? I'm super awesome at the printer repair thing. And I've always wanted to start a business.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember brainstorming, like, what am I going to start for a business, right? I could go back to a print shop thing, graphic design. You're thinking of all these things that you could start. And I'm like, you know what? I'm super awesome at the printer thing. You can make some decent coin. So let's do that. So I started that business in 2006. And I sold it after just shy of 8 years. So that was cool. One of the best days of your life, right, is when you sell a business. It's so cool.
So it sounded like to me that you were just super hungry for growth in every areas, everything that you do, and you just felt like you were stuck in that position and you got fired just because you wanted to get to the next level.
Yeah.
So is this something that you find nowadays in building your own business? Like your creativity is infinite. You have that room to expand as much as you want to.
Totally.
How's that different for you now? Like now that you can be in this area where you can just be yourself and
Sure.
continue to expand?
It's cool. It's super cool because you can see like there's growth trajectory, right? The rule that I have is grow or die. So if you're not growing, you're stagnant. That's like a tree. You're dying if you're not growing. So one of the challenges that I have is in the Midwest, there's slow decision makers, like brutally slow. So I teach a business planning class, and some people will be like, you know what? After the holidays, I'll finish my business plan, or after this event or this thing that has no relevance to what they're talking about happens, then I'll do this next thing. And then I come off all just like guns blaze and like, why are you waiting for Christmas to start your business? It's the middle of October or whatever, right? Like you got a couple months. And people just always just kick the can down the road before they get stuff started. So I just push. You push and you have fun doing it. Because I feel like, well, you probably know this, right? As you push and you grow, it's almost an addiction because you get that enjoyment out of it, right?
Yeah.
And then you see people, I feel like sometimes this must be what people on cocaine look around and see the world and they're like, everyone's going so slow, right? Because we're on this growth trajectory and you're just improving in any way that you can, right? Learn how to play guitar, take boxing lessons, learn Spanish, whatever. Just advance yourself as much as you can to enjoy the life as much as you can. And see, a lot of people are just like, I'm cool just watching Netflix. Like, what are you getting out of that, right? What do you gain? So you want to grow. Boom, boom.
So, I mean, you came from a small town, right, in Wisconsin?
Yeah, relatively, 60,000.
So, where did all these like hunger, these ambition came from? Was this from people you looked up to in your life, or was it from books that you study, or how did this hunger came from?
That's a good question. I probably fell into the same trap that a lot of entrepreneurs fall into, where you're good at a certain skill, or you have a product to offer, but you really don't know the business end of it. So I started my first business, after I took a bunch of classes at the university they have here, just some, their small business development center. I took a bunch of classes there to learn sales and taxes and blah, 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 blah. So I thought that I had a solid foundation. I learned I was wrong, just in a lot of different areas. Learned about how to price stuff, human resource thing, the whole employee thing. That's a whole other game that I messed up on. So it took me a while to learn all this stuff. And as I was learning, you realize, I guess you fall in that trap where you're a trap. I say it's a trap, not like it's a bad thing, but I started reading books, right? You start reading books, nonfiction books that are just helping, right? The whole Think and Grow Rich, E-Myth. I remember reading The 4-Hour Work Week. That was a game changer. Not necessarily the content, overall content. It was just a premise. The premise that every job does not have to take 40 hours. That alone made you think, well, I've been living a lie. And if I've been living that lie, what other lies have I been living, right? So you're just absorbing as much as you possibly can. And then I got on a little Tony Robbins kick, found some videos online, and I would watch those, right? YouTube's got a bunch of cool stuff, bunch of cool people on there. I went to a couple of his live events. That was super cool. And you just grow. Then I start teaching. And teaching, you can learn a ton when you're teaching your students, right? It's more, I'm teaching them as much as they're teaching me, right? Just different perceptions that they have and changes that they're making. It's just, everybody's got their own different path. So I'm learning from the way they're going, and what they're learning is kind of neat to see. And it's interesting. There's no such thing as too smart, I guess.
Yeah, I definitely resonate with what you're saying, because I feel like I'm in that trap too myself. Once you open your awareness to the next level, it's just everything that you look at is different from what you've been taught growing up, and it's exciting. It's super exciting. So James, tell me more about your journey of starting a business, right? Was it easy? I would imagine it was not easy.
At the time, I thought it was easy. And the business that I started had a pretty low barrier to entry from a capital point of view. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like I needed a few tools. I needed a few basic parts and stuff like that. Some training. So I probably started that business for a couple grand. I
Mm-hmm.
started working out of my house. Where if you're going to start a retail store or a restaurant or something like that that has a way bigger capital outlay, that'd be a bigger challenge. I didn't have employees from the start. Um, my biggest challenge, I guess, was when I first hired my first employee. I was under the impression that you could hire someone, pay them, and they would just show up and do the job that you told them to do. And I have learned many times over that that is not the case. Not exclusively, certainly not all the time. A lot of employees are people, and they have things and desires and cares, and a lot of the times those desires and cares are not working for you or doing this job or even showing up.
Mm-hmm.
There's challenges that way. So
Yeah.
I'm still learning that. So
So did you ever encounter times during this journey of growing businesses that you just feel like this is too difficult? Like, did you ever have a moment where you say, I want to go back to a 9 to 5? Or that's something that never came across your mind?
I don't want to say never. There were times, the majority of the time, we're talking like 99.9999%, I'll say I would never go back to a boss.
Yeah.
However, a couple of years ago, I put on an event and it was a flop. I lost a lot of money on that event because essentially like 5 people showed up and I planned for like 30 or 40. So we had room rented, food, videographers. I had all these speakers. It was a train wreck. So I was in over my head financially a couple of years ago. So I had to, I started dealing, I dealt blackjack, right? Just for like get these, you're just subbing out to Christmas parties and stuff like that. I started driving for Lyft for a little bit, which I realized there was no money in that. So I was just doing everything I could to build myself back up. So it took me a few months just of hustling to get back to level. I'm not a big debt guy. I don't like that. So, but I learned a lot from that experience. And so for that tiny moment or those few months, I was like, there's people that they got less going for them. They're not really hungry. They're not working on growing, that are making dramatically more money than me. And you could argue some of them don't have the ethics where I want to be down there or anything like that. On the flip side, there's some people that are doing okay. They're doing just fine. They seem happy. I thought maybe that life isn't so bad. And then the other side of my brain like slaps me in the face and says, what are you talking about? You're super awesome. You can totally grow. Look at all you've learned. Look at all you've accomplished. And what would you be taking away from the world by not continuing on, by not starting a business, right? Or not growing a business, right? And then you're like, okay, you're right. Let's do this. Fix it.
Yeah, you brought up a really good point. There's on this journey, there's always this voice in the back of your mind that would just tell you, like, James, you can't do this, like that limiting voice. Do you still experience this nowadays, or like how do you overcome that limiting voice inside?
Every once in a while. I wouldn't say that it's gone, but I don't think I would like it if it was gone, because it's another thing to challenge you. So my rule is that nobody gets excited for a flat roller coaster. So there's going to be peaks and valleys, right? Be like, oh, this is super awesome. It just drives through a golf course. Like, yeah, right? You want the roller coasters that are like crazy up and then straight down, right? Yeah. So maybe in business, you don't want straight down, but you know what I mean? There's some excitement. There's some challenges. The rule that I have is we create our own prison. So I see this with my students a lot of times. It'll be like we had one woman who's starting a retail store. I said, when's this retail store going to be open? She's like, 7 days a week, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. I'm like, great, that's fantastic. How many employees are you going to have? And she's like, none to start. And I'm like, okay, you're going to be working at your store 12 hours a day, and it's not including when you're bringing on inventory from vendors or doing paperwork or blah, 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 right? All this other stuff. Like, when are you going to sleep, and why would you want that? That is not, like, that doesn't seem like a goal, right? I want to be imprisoned in my own retail store for the rest of my life. That doesn't sound good, right? But then you talk to people like that, and this, just talking with students helped me realize Like, what is the prison that I'm building, or what are the prisons that some of my other students and clients are building that maybe they're not aware of? Like this woman, what she was selling, she still has a strong passion. She'll start her business. She'll do well. Well, hopefully she'll get some employees for her. Yeah, people just build their own prison, so you got to be aware of it. That's all.
First step is awareness. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I know you have the Bold Business book where you talk about not only building a successful business, but also one that gives people the freedom, right? So what would you say are like the key components that is necessary when it comes to building that sustainable business?
Sure. So my rule is that you have to have a multiplier of some kind. The multiplier can be, I think I talk about this in the book, right? It can either be employees that are doing some of the work, so it's not just all on you. It can be outsourced, so it's just contractors and stuff like that that are doing some of the work. It could be something where it's software, where you're able to sell it multiple times and churn it out, just like a book, though there's no money in books. You could sell thousands of them and they give you a check for like 50 cents or something like that. You write a song, play some music, get some intellectual property, get residuals of some kind. Just if a multiplier beyond just trading time for money. When you're trading time for money, that's just, you can't duplicate that because there's a finite amount of time that you have and that you want to work, right? You want to do stuff with your time outside of just work all of it. Like sleep and work doesn't sound like fun.
Okay. Yeah. So let's talk about like coming from a point of view of someone who is starting a business for the first time, right? So thinking of the audience that we're speaking to right now, a lot of us just come out of college. Maybe we know deep down that we don't want to be working at a 9 to 5 for the rest of our life, but we don't really know where to begin. And I feel like there's a lot of fears around that, like not being able to see the outcome ahead of time. Everything is so intangible. So what would some tips that you have for someone wanting to start a business but don't know how?
Sure. I would start with the end in mind. So I tell people, I have clients that come to me with this, and I say, figure out, what do you want your week to look like, right? Do you want to be stuck in an office? Do you want to be working from home? Do you want to be able to work wherever you can take a laptop? Like, where do you want, maybe you don't even want to be on a computer, right? What do you want to do? And figure out, and it's tough to say, I guess, idealistically, right? People would say, I don't want to have to work at all, right? Well, great. You're going to have to take some steps to build up a business that you don't have to. To start out, let's say that first year, just define where you want to be. And then you say, okay, let's just say, I want to be able to work from a laptop anywhere in the world. Great. You're probably going to need internet, so it's not anywhere in the world, but that's most places, right? And you want to figure out, okay, you want to travel, get it, that's cool. And we got to figure out how much income do you need to pay for that lifestyle. And what are you going to do to bring in that income? What are you good at? What do you know about? What are you willing to learn? There's a lot of people that I know that have, I shouldn't say a lot, there's a handful of people that I know that are making decent money selling stuff online. And they can sell from anywhere. A few of those people actually have employees that are helping them. But it took them at least a couple of years to build up that business. And there was not a couple of years just sitting on the couch watching Netflix or something like that. That was hitting it pretty hard. And the other challenge, right, is, I mean, maybe this is going on a tangent, but when you're selling online, let's say specifically with Amazon or something like that, you're relying on that one portal, right? eBay, Amazon, whatever. If you're not diversified, you can get the plug pulled on you pretty quick. And so, because you're relying on that one channel. So you want to be careful with that. So it's, but just figure out what the day is. And there's some people that are like, I'm totally cool going in an office. I go in an office because it keeps me on task, because otherwise your brain's like, right, going 50 different directions. You're like, okay, when I'm in this desk, sitting at this computer, got my stuff laid out, now I'm in the zone here, and we just go to work, right? So you just got to figure out where you want to go or where you want to be on a typical day. What does it look like? Typical week, and then just work backwards. What business fits that?
That's a really good point. We have to see the destination if we are headed somewhere. So that's really, really good. So I want to talk about this phenomenon where I personally gone through to after coming out
Sure.
of college. I feel like this is a question that so many of us have is, can we possibly do what we love and also make a lot of money at the same time? Is that a possibility?
I suppose it would depend what you love, right? If you love typewriters, no. if you love if you love pagers, no. But generally speaking, yes. To me, not to get too philosophical, but I believe that love is a choice to a point. So I think that you can choose what you want to love, and from there you can make sure that that coincides with a way to make money. There's so many ways to make money, right? There's tons of ways to make money, and so you just have to find one of those ways or create one of those ways to provide what you want it to provide.
Yeah, and I think it's important too to just like believe, to make the decision to believe that it's possible, and that's when we will start seeing the doors open around us. So what is some of the few things that you notice in people that really stops them from pursuing after that ultimate lifestyle that they want? What are some of the fears that just stop people from taking action?
Excuses. Let me tell you a quick story. I met for coffee this woman that I hadn't seen in 4 or 5 years, something like that. I met her just networking and stuff like that. She was a salesperson for an IT company. She moved, started her own social media marketing business. So she reaches out to me, I don't know, it was a week and a half ago. And she's like, hey, James, how's it going? I'm back in town and I'm connecting with all my old people. Let's grab some coffee. I'm like, all right, let's grab some coffee. So I meet her for coffee, and I learned that her social media marketing business taken off. She's got like 7 employees. She's doing fantastic, right? So when I knew her, she was an employee of another company. Now she's got this booming business, working like 15 hours a week. So I'm like, all right, good for you. That's pretty cool. And she's, building her base back up in Madison. Super cool. And she was talking about getting back. She's like, when I moved, she was big into P90X or working out or something like that. And she's like, I haven't worked out for like 2 years. I moved and whatever. Life got busy and I just put on the back burner, and I haven't been able to get going. And anytime somebody says I haven't been able, I'm like, why haven't you? If you're only working 15 hours a week, doesn't sound like there's a whole lot of stuff stopping you. So I'm like, where would you go? Where would you work out? And she's like, oh, this girl, Jenny, we used to work out all the time, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, why don't you call her up right now? And she's like, I can't call her up right now. I'm like, why not? And then she thought, and she's like, I guess I can. And so she calls up Jenny. They schedule an appointment because Jenny's some personal trainer or something like that. So put it in your calendar. Got it. It's all good. So conversation goes on, right? That's taken care of. She told me she got a kid. She got a son that's 19 years old, and was in school and jumped out of school. Still living in the basement. And he says that he can't find a job. I don't know what it's like where you're at in California, right? But unemployment here is like next to zero, right? On the verge of zero. Saying you can't find a job, that just means that you're not looking for a job at all, right? So I'm not saying maybe you can't find a specific job, but any job, you can't find anything. And so she's like, so I grabbed him and I said, you got to fill out these applications or send these resumes to at least 10 places today. And he's like, I can't. And she made them right then. And then she paused for a moment and she's like, I just did to him what you just did to me. And I was like, coaching is one of those things where we're not telling you something that you don't know. We're telling you something. We're just pointing out something that you already know, that you know how to do. So it's interesting how people just build up these excuses in their head. And then kind of the whole building your own prison thing. Sometimes you're building a prison that's not even there. It's just fake chains, man, fake bars. They don't exist.
Oh, that's so powerful. Yeah. And I think that question, why not, really is a game changer. If we consistently ask ourselves that questions, why not? Why can we not do that? And that's really when we start to see the answers to all those questions.
I would tweak that question a little bit, though. Because when you ask why not, your brain will come up with an answer that's going to define why not, right? But you could say, could I look at this differently? Or is there any possibility that I could do this? Or what are the possibilities that I could do this?
Mm-hmm,
A lot of
mm-hmm.
times
Yeah.
people say they didn't have a choice. I hate when people say they didn't have a choice. I'm like, you totally had a choice. You limited yourself, right? So you could say from your limitation, you didn't have a choice, but people always have a choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
So do you still have any fears yourself nowadays that you're overcoming?
Yeah, there's some, I still got some head trash.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a little while to get through it. I'll give you an example, right? We're just in, a buddy and I pick a different city, old high school buddy of mine. We pick a different city every year and we just travel for a long weekend. So this past, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, whatever, we were in Los Angeles and we're on the beach and we see these houses and I get on the internet to say, what do these houses go for, right? The beach is kind of cool. I see $50 million. $50 million for this house where you're sharing walls on both sides. You have a very small one, if not two-car garage, and it's maybe 20 feet end to end. They're not big places, but they're right on the beach. Like $50 million. Holy cow. And it just blew my mind, right? And it wasn't like there were one of them, or there was one of them, right? There were hundreds. I'm like, how many people are making $50 million that they can justify buying this house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought, well, that number for them is clearly not a problem, or most likely not a problem. Shouldn't be a problem, right? But from where I'm coming from, $50 million is almost unobtainable.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, it's not. It's not unobtainable. And these are small houses, so I bet that this is like a second or fourth house for some of these people, right? Where $50 million is a drop in the bucket. So I still have that head trash where you got to think bigger. Because it's the thinking small, though I'm thinking way bigger now than I was before. You know, one person's bigger is the other person's, well, that's tiny, right? So,
Yeah, I definitely feel that because like right when I came out of Berkeley, my definition of success was just like making maybe 50K a year. But now
sure.
to me that's pennies. That's
Right,
just
right.
nothing. So you really have to increase that level of belief in yourself
Right.
in order to see a way to get to that. So
Yeah.
James, personally, I feel like I was also someone who was chasing the wrong things my whole entire life. I was chasing like external success. That's where I thought fulfillment would come from. What is your definition of success right now, and where do you find fulfillment in?
Sure. My definition of success, that is ever changing. That's a tough one. That's a question that I ask both potential employees and I ask the people on my show. And it's one of those questions where you're like, how would I answer that? Success is tough for me to define. I want to say that success is for me being happy, and I know that I'm improving. But this progress is being made. That said, there's some days where you're like, success is that I still have a heartbeat because they were challenging days, right? So yeah, that's a tough one to define. And I feel bad saying that because like as a coach, you want to have a destination in mind. So I have, so you have financial and health and all that kind of stuff goals that way. But you know, right, as soon as you achieve them, you're not like, this is it. You're like, even when you even come close to them, you raise the bar. So I guess that's one of the challenges that I'm still trying to overcome is giving myself permission to just thank myself or have some gratitude for achieving a certain level or some goals that I was after. That's a tough one to define, so I apologize for that.
No, I love it because you're someone who's constantly growing and expanding. So the definition can be flexible as you become a different version of yourself. So what are some non-negotiable steps for our listeners listening right now if they want to go into pursuing the passion, the calling, and to build a successful business centered around that? What would you say are the non-negotiable steps to become successful in that venture?
One, I would say that you're going to have to understand that you're going to have to commit a lot of energy. Maybe that's time, maybe it's financial resources, maybe it's education. Like it's not just going to be an overnight success, right? Because realistically, no such thing as an overnight success. We like to believe that there is, but you don't see the decades of stuff that was happening before that. So just understand that you're going to have to stick some energy in there, and you're going to have to go full throttle, right? You're not going to be able to you're not going to be able to relax for a while if you really want to accomplish something. Now, the rule is, right, I forget exactly how that saying goes, but I do what others won't do so that later on I can do what others can't do. Is, you got to push it that way. The other one is a rule that I teach my students is to not hate money. I think there's a stigma around money, right? Money is evil, money doesn't grow on trees, all this other stuff. When in the business world, money is what makes the world go round, right? Money is what helps you pay for your employees. Money is what helps you pay for your equipment. Money is what helps you pay for marketing, advertising, all this kind of stuff. Money is what you get to put in your pocket so you can enjoy yourself, right? Just, you need money. So a lot of times, especially here in the Midwest, I see people that just want to charge way too little for what they're offering because they're essentially charging people based on their wallet, right? When I first came out of college, I came out of college with a little bit of debt. That was my debt. My parents didn't pay for it or anything like that, so I get to take that on. And my goal was just to pay off that debt as fast as I could, right? Which realistically, compared to the debt that a lot of students have now, it wasn't that big of a deal, right? It was only 5 figures. No, I take it back. Yeah, it was 5 figures. So that's still a lot of figures. But it was one of those, you have to push. You really got to push. And you have to have, I guess another rule is that you have to have some passion for it. It doesn't necessarily have to be a passion for whatever it is you're selling, right? Because I've seen people make a lot of money off selling stuff that, like rubber toe inserts or something like that. I can't believe the person would be like, I have a passion for rubber toe inserts, right? But they may have a passion for helping people. They may have a passion for customer service. Or they may just have a passion for, you know what, this is one avenue to living the life with travel and all that kind of stuff that I want to live. So I'm cool with that avenue, right? I guess those are a few of them. Probably a good start.
Yeah, those are really good. So you brought up a really good point about the student loans and debts that students come out of college with nowadays. So like, I see a lot of my friends, their entire focus is to like pay off debt ASAP, and then they would just focus on finding a job that pays without really taking the time to reflect on what it is that they truly want to create with their life. So is it doable to really take that time to reflect while still taking care of this urgent monster to kind of like just chasing after you? Is it something that's doable for people nowadays?
Sure. I would say that that's somewhat of a mindset issue. When you first come out of college, you're in your mid-20s. So you are years away from what we consider retirement, right? You consider retirement 60, 70-ish years old. You got decades, right? So you could really mess up your financial situation and be able to come out of it in a few years with a story, right? It's not like, oh my gosh, I had to work till I was 150 years old because I messed up when I was 22. It's not a thing. It's just not a thing, right? So I would say that you can take the risks now when you're just out of college, because the debt, I guess I don't know exactly how some of the loans are set now, but they're probably fixed rate. They're probably, rates are super low now. So they're probably relatively low and fixed rate. So though it's debt, it is not like I have to get this paid off right away kind of psycho debt. That's not to say don't pay it, right? You want to make your payments and all that kind of stuff. But I wouldn't consider that paying off that debt to be the end goal. I would think about that. Like if you got, I don't know, let's just say you got $100,000 of debt, make your goal be $250,000 or something. Because the rule is that you will achieve your standard. And if your standard is paying off the debt, great, fine. You'll pay off that debt, and then you'll have nothing. Or no next step there. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Yeah. So
yeah. So I love that you really put the bigger perspective into this picture, and you make a good point about taking risks now because we have so much more buffer, more room to make errors and bounce back in case things doesn't work out. So now leading into our final question. So what would you say, knowing everything that you know now, James, of your experience, your journey, what would you say back to your old, like back in your early 20s, the version of James? What would you say to him?
Invest in Apple. Boy, what would I say? I would tell him that it's not to stop. Back then, I still had a little bit of a maturity challenge, I guess. You know, like when you're that age, anywhere from, let's say, 16 to 25, you think you know everything, and it takes you a little bit of real world experience to learn that you totally don't, right? Even though I'm 42 and I totally do not know everything. So I would tell myself, one, you don't know everything. Two, there's nothing stopping you from learning more. And three, if you get a better job or get started now, the payoffs will happen faster. The sooner you get started, the sooner you can get the reward, right? I think Warren Buffett had that saying, it's like the best way to make money is to start. So from an investment point of view, right, just don't, I had some jobs where I was just looking, you get your hourly whatever, and you look at that fast hourly, and then you jump ship for another $1 an hour or something like that. And it was a waste of time. I guess. That's not accurate, right? Because it was experience. You learn something from every job. So it's one of those, I don't know, man. It's tough to say because the challenge that I'm having in my brain is I don't know if my 20-something self would listen.
That's a valid point.
Like, I'm busy. I'm working 60 hours a week and going to school full time. I don't have time to listen to you, old man. So it'd have to be, I don't even know how I would get that message across to myself. I was an idiot back then.
Yeah, I think for our listeners listening, it's just important though to have an open mind. And I think we have such a huge blessings to be able to tap into the brains of people like you, James. You have walked the path and you have built a life that you truly love, doing things that you're passionate about. So it's really important to just keep an open mind and to just listen to these insights and the wisdom from people who have the experience, who have gone ahead of us.
Sure.
And, you know, I'm really passionate about like helping people to jumpstart that dream life ASAP instead of taking the next like 10, 20 years working at a job they don't necessarily love, only to realize like, oh, I should have gotten started way ahead of time. So
if only.
Exactly. So now we have this huge blessing, and really like I appreciate so much, James, of your time these past 45 minutes to share with our audience your success and how you get to the point that you're at today. And I really people like you inspire me so much because you have followed your calling and you have built something super inspiring that touched the lives of so many individuals out there. So thank you for your time. So I know our listeners would love to continue to learn more from you if they want business coaching.
Sure.
Where can they find you online?
So my main website is drawincustomers.com. So they can find all kinds of stuff there. I got the podcast. I got a bunch of videos, just a lot of content. The majority of it's free. So it's just there to help people. If they can use it, great. If they get something cool from it, great. If they want to share it, fantastic. Connect with me on all the social media channels and all that jazz. Just look up Draw In Customers and you'll find me.
Awesome. Yeah. So thank you so much. And thank you, our listeners, for tuning in today. Hopefully you got some inspirations and amazing insights from James on this episode. And make sure you tune back in next time. So thank you, James, and we'll see everyone next time.
I appreciate it.